Hello. Welcome to the Inspiring Founders Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Ashley, but everyone calls me MASH. If you've ever thought about starting a company, you've probably heard about product market fit, funding, scaling, growth. But before any of that, there's a much simpler and a much harder goal. Just don't let your startup die. In this conversation, Wayne Fenton breaks down what it really takes to survive the early stages of building a startup, long enough to become what he calls default alive. We talk about customer discovery, the reality of deep tech, how founders navigate risk, and why most companies fail before they ever get traction. So if you're building something or thinking about it, this one's for you. Let's get into it. I'm here in the house of Wayne Fenton, who is just an incredibly inspiring founder himself, but he's been in the innovation ecosystem for a long time, working with UCSC and Santa Cruz Works and Santa Cruz, and now he's part of Lightlinks, which is a startup here in Santa Cruz that is growing really quickly. And so we're going to dive into some of that. We're going to dive into your background, your journey a little bit into how you got to where you are here. And then maybe take some time to go into the ecosystem itself and kind of understand how innovation comes out of these things and everything. So welcome, Wayne.
Good to be here.
Thank you
Pleasure.
so much.
Thanks
for inviting me to your beautiful place. I'm blown away. I know it's a little foggy right now, but I bet the views are incredible.
It's amazing. So I get to sit at this dining room table and do work and just be inspired. And it's very mentally calming. Everybody says this, that you by the ocean, it helps, and it really does.
Yeah. Are you going to introduce us to your
Nikki?
Your crew here? What do we got here?
Okay, this is Nikki. Say hi, Nikki.
Okay. We got a jealous one here
That's
now.
Nikki. Okay,
Hi, Nikki.
Penny, come. Okay, and this is Penny.
Hey, Penny, look at you. Hey, sweetheart.
Yeah, that's
all right.
Good. Okay, that's our. Hey, they get jealous of each other. All right.
Okay, cool.
So yeah.
Well, let's start off with setting the scene. Okay. I know because you and I have talked before, and you came and you were a guest at some of the workshops we did at San Jose State University and the incubator there. So I know your background a little bit, and I know that the last big company you were at was Upwork, which is not a small company.
Right,
and
that's a big company.
What were you doing there, and how did you make the transition from Upwork to Lightlinks?
What happened was I started a big company at Oracle. Then I thought I'd try a startup, and it was fantastic. We were successful. We had an IPO, and then they got bought by Cisco. So I was back at a big company.
Yep.
And then I decided that was too bureaucratic, so I got into eBay as a software architect. That was super cool and interesting. Then I got invited to be a VP of engineering at a startup. And that was super cool, interesting. A lot of my employees were in Israel. So that was interesting. We were kind of mediocre. We weren't really successful that much, but we got bought by Qualcomm. So I was a VP at Qualcomm for several years working in IoT, which is a foreshadowing of this Lightlinks world. From Qualcomm, I went back to another startup. That was an IoT startup. It was kind of medium-sized company, I would say. That got bought. And then I went to, and then they bought us and they wanted to change how they ran us. And anyway, then I went to 2 failed startups. I literally got fired from 2 failed startups, although they failed anyway without me. And then I went to Upwork. And I went to Upwork as an individual contributor, as a software architect, because I was sick of being a VP, dealing with HR and all that stuff, those issues. So at Upwork, I did a lot of fun software architect stuff. This is like the future of work world, remote, building teams remotely.
Freelance marketplace.
So that was super interesting. I went back to managing. I was a director. And so that was 5 years or so, and then I decided to take a break. Oh, actually, during Upwork, that was when the pandemic happened. And so when the pandemic happened, we went remote, and that's when we moved over here to Paradise.
Oh, man. So, okay, this podcast is both for founders and about founders. So hearing about this path, this weaving path you had and all the things you do, a lot of students come out of university wanting to go immediately into the startup world.
Yeah.
It sounds like you actually built an entire experience actually working for a long time in startups and around startups and all of this other stuff. So what suggestions do you have for students or recommendations for them coming out of college? Should they go to work and gain this experience and follow this path and do it like you did, or should they do something different?
I usually recommend kids, if they want to learn or live the startup world, join a startup. Don't launch a startup, because I was telling you earlier, it's like having sex. You can't learn in school about how to build a company. It's not possible. It's like having a baby or dying, or these things are just not learnable except by doing it. Now the flip side is, well, I got to do it then somehow, but being in an existing startup, I always picked startups that were like 20 people, except for that one really successful one. I was employee number 11 there. But even there, I was number 11. So I picked startups that had maybe 20 to 50 people.
Oh, okay.
It's because you see all the
certain size.
Yeah.
They're not that super duper early, fragile idea.
Right, exactly. And they've shown some progress toward product market fit. That's the key, right? And usually that triggers an A round investment. So if you're in seed or pre-seed, there's no evidence yet. You have no evidence. And so I always targeted like a Series A startups, or around there, because there's evidence. And so when you see the things of 90% of them fail, well, by the time they get to the A round, it's not 90 anymore. It's 50. It's it's much more likely to succeed. So that's another thing, is that if you're picking startups, there's the risk-reward trade-off, but really, it's really hard to get a unicorn where you're going to get tens of millions of dollars or fuck you money or whatever. So finding one that's got a medium amount of risk and a medium amount of reward. I actually came up with a baseball analogy and an on-base percentage. So if you think of like a single as an acquisition or an acqui-hire, if you think of a double as a acquisition for $10 million or $100 million, say, a triple and then a home run, right? So I had a very high on-base percentage, but I never had a home run.
Got it.
And so I had, like 3 doubles, a triple, 3 doubles, and a single, something like that.
Yeah.
And then 2 strikeouts. So anyway, that kind of helps me calibrate how good I did in my picking, how the risk paid off relative to the payback, and that kind of thing. Anyway.
And I mean, I could talk an hour about that easily, because I think it's critical for people to understand that they have an opportunity cost. And the opportunity cost when you're a student is go get a job, you can make money there, or choose a startup. Now there's an opportunity cost. Which startup? Right. The early ones, you might get brought in with a dorm room buddy as a co-founder, but then you're in that 90% failure rate.
90% failure
but
rate.
if you get into the seed or the pre-seed or the A or whatever, so it sounds like you figured some of that out. Let's keep moving, because I want to get towards the ecosystem now, because last question, in those startups, were you ever a founder, or did you always work for some other?
No, this is my first founder.
Really?
It's my first one, and literally it's my last one probably. So it's so interesting, because founding is impossibly hard. That's the same thing, like if you knew how hard it is, you would never do it. Now you had Saul Lippman on the other day, and he's done, I don't know how many successful ones he's done, but if you learn by doing, and then you can repeat it and you get the lessons. Also, investors, sorry to keep going on this, investors will more readily invest in a repeat founder. They hate first-time founders for this reason. And this is why Feroz or Lightlinks struggled, because he's a first-time founder. He did a little company in Iran, but in America, this is his first startup. But now that we've got a big customer, we've got evidence, we've got me, we've got a COO. So anyway, that's all to say that that's the trade-off.
That's super cool. So now you've moved to Santa Cruz. You got this beautiful place. You are working remote, it's COVID time, all these things are happening, and you're instantly in the middle of a new ecosystem.
Yeah.
Kind of innovation, entrepreneurial ecosystem
Right.
with the flavor of Santa Cruz, which
Right.
is kind of different
Yeah.
than the rest of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been here for 30 years, so I've tasted it and I love it and I want to stay here in Santa Cruz. But let's get into sort of your experience with the innovation ecosystem. So when you got here, how did you get involved?
Right. Two things. One was I had been teaching programming over the hill for UCSC Extension, Python, C. And so I had a little bit of a teaching connection, and I had already been vetted and hired and approved as an instructor.
Okay.
So I had that kind of pre-thing going. Now, I also wanted to do some volunteer work and startups was perfect. And I learned about the UCSC ecosystem and the CruiseWorks kind of innovation hub. They're working together. They're also bringing in local industry, companies, tech companies, local businesses. So I started poking, and I became a mentor at CruiseWorks for their little accelerator. And then I started volunteering on the entrepreneurship events on campus. Hackathons, ideathons, pitch competition workshops. So I started doing that, and I met the provost, Manel Kamp, of the Entrepreneurship College up on the campus, and he asked me to teach a class. And the class he asked me to teach is how to operationalize and scale a startup.
No way.
Which is perfect.
Yeah.
So, and that was great because I was already trying to formalize this flow of what is a good idea? What is the problem to be solved? What is the ideal customer profile? How do you go through these really?
Yeah.
Because you read about them in books, and a lot of the recent books like The Lean Startup, and there's one I'll talk about later called Pattern Breakers. There's one called How to See Around Corners. They are all nuggets of this.
Yeah.
But I wanted to try and get it clear,
Yeah.
and so this class was a good excuse. And then on the side, I've been mentoring startups as they go through. The UC Santa Cruz has a flow from Ideathon in the fall through hackathons, pitch competition workshop, and then there's a pitch competition in May, and then a lot of those people flow into CruiseWorks, into their accelerator.
Is that the Launchpad? Was that
Yeah.
what Launchpad was?
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
so Launchpad was kind of the end of the UCSC flow.
Yep.
And the beginning of a Santa Cruz Works type of flow.
Exactly.
Got it.
And I met my co-founder and the Lightlinks guy, Firuz Fadari, in the pitch competition workshop, I think. I think that's where we met. And he liked my advice. He asked me to kind of advise them going up toward the pitch competition. And my feedback to him was basically the elevator pitch is using optical wave light to get higher speed data transmission and faster, more bandwidth than Wi-Fi. That's the elevator pitch.
Okay.
But he comes to me with this, and his idea is, we're going to replace Wi-Fi. And I'm like, that's not a problem to be solved.
Yeah.
And if you want to replace an existing technology, have you heard of the rule of 4?
No, tell me.
Okay, it's simple. The idea is, if you're going to replace an existing technology, you can't be 50% better or 2 times better. You have to be at least 4 times better.
Wow.
And I don't know why it's 4 or where they came up with it, but
Yeah.
it's easy to remember, so I use it. But I go, this is not 4 times better than Wi-Fi. At least you're not convincing me for what problem it's 4 times better than.
Yeah.
For what, And so he said, well, we'll figure it out, And so he went through CruiseWorks, and CruiseWorks, they help the kids with customer discovery and things like that. So they did do all that, and that was in the summer. And then they applied to the Berkeley Skydeck one, and they got in, and we got $200K of seed money. I think it's mostly to help the kids live while they're going through this 6-month process, right?
Yeah.
Now, the difference between CruiseWorks, it's kind of a smaller, it's got local groups of mentors, it's got some curriculum. Part of it is they get from other places, but it's fine, it's helpful. Now, when you get to Y Combinator and Skydeck, you get money, so there's $200K of money to help you, do things, buy things, pay people.
Yep.
Also, surprisingly, like legal bills, patents, shit like that you
Operations.
actually, yeah. So it actually is helpful for some of that stuff. You hear about, like when you were talking to Saul, the ease of building things is so much easier now, which is certainly true. Ours is a hardware product, but so we had to buy things to make prototypes and MVPs and everything. But also the thing that's different about Skydeck is there's a massive network. There's 800 mentors.
Wow.
So you go to Chan, the director, and you say, I need an expert in the wireless defense area. Oh, here's 4 names.
Wow.
And they will all answer the phone or the email or whatever.
Yeah.
And so that is entirely different. That's a different thing. The other thing is you say, Chan, I need 2 investors in the deep tech space.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Wow.
Now you can get that meeting. You probably won't get the money, but you get those meetings because they know Skydeck, they're sympathetic and all those things. So that is the difference between a kind of a smaller scale and a huge scale. Now, they have 2,000 applicants for 20 slots each cohort, and it's massive. So it's very hard, but we got in, and so that whole started, and then we went to demo day, and then we started trying to fundraise, but the thing was we were too early.
Yeah.
We had no evidence.
Even at Skydeck, they let you in, quote unquote, too early.
Yeah.
Because of the technology.
Well, the technology was half of it, and then because it was just, it's clearly got to be useful somewhere. It's one of the lessons I'm going to go over later, which is you always tell people, well, that's just technology looking for a problem.
Right.
You always say that's bad. Never do that. I'm now convinced that it's okay as long as you find the right problem. And it's hard. It's hard. And so he spent from May till August. He was just probing. He was using those connections, industries, use cases, levels. Who is having problems with wireless communication?
Yeah.
And so it wasn't until, and I was on the board at this point, but not as a president. So it was in August that he got a connection to a massive company in their innovation program. And they said, wait, we do have a problem.
Wow.
And the problem was they're doing automation in these big retailing companies, right? They're automating warehouses. Robots are everywhere. They've got the pucks that are moving around on the ground, lifting pallets and things.
Yeah.
But then B, they've got all the sorting, picking machines, moving things. And they're redoing all that now with AI. Now, the issue is you have to coordinate the vision system with the arm at high speed. Now, the arm, unfortunately, if you go into a car line, those robots are all connected by cables and they're fixed.
Oh, wow.
They don't move. But in this new generation of robots, in these things, they're moving around. I can't talk too much about how what they're doing, but they have to be wireless to talk down to the arm. Now, the problem with Wi-Fi is it's tens of milliseconds of latency, and that doesn't sound like a lot, but it jumps up. It's very variable because it's a high congestion environment. So it goes from 30, 40, 50, and spikes to 100 milliseconds. And so when we saw this in action, you can literally see the arm stagger as it's trying to get over to the product. And then and we go, so the story, I guess I can tell the story. So we sent them data and they're like, well, there's no way. It's way too fast. That's not even, we've seen nothing. Because they tried 5G, they tried millimeter, they tried all these different wireless RF solutions. So they told my co-founder, get on a plane, you need to be here by Monday morning. And so he literally packed up like your Pelican case over there. So he packed up his Pelican case. Anyway, so we went there and they hooked it up pretty easily because our solution looks like a network device. It
Sure.
looks like a normal network device. So they turned it on and it connected like a normal network device, and then they started the test program and it just went.
No way.
It was completely
my
different.
God.
It's like 10 times faster than Wi-Fi.
So it's got the 4x,
It's
the
exactly.
order of magnitude
The order of
better.
magnitude. Yeah, exactly. So, and you know, companies like that we would never work with a
No.
startup like us. It's
No.
like it's ridiculous. And this was like a weird janky prototype thing.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we'll let you try. And so we're in a pilot program right now.
Wow. Okay, I need to unpack that. There's
Yeah.
a lot of stuff that you said there.
Yeah.
And one of the things is this idea that, especially deep tech research coming out of universities,
Yeah.
is, you know, they fall into that category of like, yeah, that's cool that you invented something, but, you know, who's going to use, or, you know, what's the problem, or how are you going to find it, whatever.
Yeah.
And in
Also,
tech
do you own the IP? Who owns the IP coming out of the university?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So we own
That's
it.
another thing to think about. So there are universities who have tech transfer programs. They've invested money to help their researchers to, you know, patent their technologies and these things like that. But what they don't have is this nice handoff to the commercialization of the technology. And I think in order to be successful, at least in my opinion, you need to have both in the university. At least there needs to be the innovation and the commercialization. And if you have the innovation without people like you, or the pathway to commercialization, then the innovation just becomes some really cool stuff you get awards for, etc.
Right.
And if you have commercialization, which is like teaching kids how to do entrepreneurship without anything to protect, or, you know, anything worth selling, then you're missing the other side too.
Totally. And the part of it is, if you're building an app, fine.
Yeah.
You put it out there. Maybe you have to market it or get influencers or things. But we're building an enterprise class networking product.
Yeah.
Who do you even sell to? Does my co-founder know about enterprise sales processes? No. So totally agree. And another one I see a lot is ed tech. Let's improve education with AI.
Okay.
Who are you selling to? If you're selling to the university, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And so, or the school district has IT systems that have security approvals 9 miles long.
Yeah.
And so the kids don't, you know, that commercialization thing is very different depending on the industry, the target customer, all that stuff. So I totally agree with it.
Yeah.
But although you say that, and it's certainly true, I was, as you were thinking about it, I'm like, yes, but how do you standardize that? Maybe it has to be with advisors and mentors, because that's the only way you could know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think, and I may be totally wrong, but I think there's a paradigm shift that needs to happen between university and the commercial, you know, area. Like you talk about Skydeck and how valuable it was to you.
Yeah.
Skydeck is something that has evolved over time. It wasn't always as valuable as it is right now.
Yeah.
And a lot of universities started the way Skydeck started, where they thought, well, we will own the venture and the, you know, innovation and the ecosystem and the education. We'll try and take over all. And then what happens is the advancement people who are seeking donors are fighting with the venture people who are trying to get people to invest money.
That's interesting.
There's a lot of complications in there.
Yeah,
so
totally.
what Skydeck did is they separated that, and they clearly said, we have a venture fund that's outside of the university.
Right.
We return 50% of our carry back
Yes.
to the Skydeck
Oh, you know them well.
program.
Yeah, that's good.
You know?
Yeah.
And that does is it protects them from advancement, who says, you can't talk to them, you can't talk to them, you can't talk to them because they're our donors.
Yeah.
Which is like, no, fine, you go ahead and take their donor money, we're going to take their venture money.
Yeah.
And we're going to actually implement it the way a VC would, like in that space. So I love the Skydeck model.
Yeah.
I think they've done a great job with that. Chon is amazing, and he's built I think $64 million fund or something.
It?
It's
I
huge.
don't know.
It's enormous. So what you were talking about though with this flow, because they have to come out. You said your light links came out of UCSC kind of through programs and competitions, and then flowed into the community to sort of what was available for free here.
Yeah.
Right? Because they didn't get any money from any of the programs.
Yeah,
But
yep.
they were accepted.
Which is CruiseWorks.
CruiseWorks, and
Yep.
they were accepted, and they were kind of nurtured. Even then, it was important to
Yep.
kind of keep them alive long enough.
Yep. More feedback, more, talking to different people that were part of that group. Yeah. Sure. Yep.
And then, and this is what breaks my heart, each of these phases that are separated has a cliff at the end. They either fall off the cliff and disappear forever. Like from the UCSC competitions, they just fall off. They're gone forever.
Because they go get regular jobs. They just give up and say, well, that's too hard. I can't do that.
Cool. All right, let's go back just to the learning, because you were gonna, you said you were gonna save it till the end.
Yeah.
And because I was talking about the path and the steps and the ecosystem that kind of can churn out startups like in a repeatable, like, can we create a system that repeatably churns out really great startups?
Right. And
then you were going to talk about something you said that we're missing. And I think maybe it was the team. Well, I guess you talked about the team.
Yep.
The team and getting the CEO.
Yep.
What's wrong with our system today? Why don't we put out more startups that are successful?
Yeah, I had this question also, which is, we have all these frameworks now and all these, like, the jobs to be done and customer segmentation, and there's a business model matrix or some shit.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, those are helpful, but they don't solve here's a problem. Here's a point. And this is one of my learnings that I wanted to get to. And it's part of why these things still don't change the failure rate that much. I was listening to a podcast with, or a webinar with Jason Calacanis. He's kind of a gadfly of the entrepreneurship world. And I asked him, there was a Q&A section. I said, you think you're so good at operationalizing, because he runs an incubator and an accelerator as well.
Okay.
And then he invests in them himself with his own syndicate.
Yeah.
So he goes from,
the whole
cradle to grave or whatever. So I said, why is the failure rate still high?
Yeah.
Is it still high, and why? And he said, it's just too hard to standardize. You can get the steps and you can help kids prevent failure modes that are obvious, but getting through it is still just hard to build a product that people will pay for and scale it. So that's that.
Wow.
That's why it's still hard, even with all that, and we've been scaling investing, and we've been the evidence milestones, and what do you need to get your Series A, and what do you need to show, and it's just freaking hard.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's an element. Go ahead and get that set up.
Yeah.
I want to learn. I want to know what it is that you figured out here. But there's an element of magic involved. I would say there's a serendipity, like the pieces where Sean knows, like, if I connect people together, if I smash enough people together, the magic that happens. We know that. But then there's just luck. Like, we know that there's luck.
Yeah.
And I guess, like you were saying on the path, is just don't die.
Yeah.
Right? Just don't die.
Yeah, you have to get to default alive. That's the journeys that you're wandering out in the desert, and you've got to find product market fit, because you need your customers and your market to pull. You can't keep just trying to jam a product into people, and there's pilots and evaluations and little betas. So you're on a journey to get to product market fit, so that you can be default alive, so that you can then hopefully get into a growth mode, a hyper growth mode. That's the idea. But,
and do you have any tricks for doing that, other than, like, just, I mean, we tell people to take all the classes and do all the work, but do you have any? Have you figured out any?
Yeah, this is right here. This is the three things. The first is, I said a little bit earlier, but I just wanted to make it clear. I now think it's okay to identify a technology and go looking for a problem. As long as you're finding a good, hard problem that you can solve for X, then, and it's a problem you want to dedicate 10 years of your life to. Most startups, they just quit.
Yeah.
The founders quit.
Yep.
Okay, so...
Can I dig into that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure.
So it's not necessarily just a technology looking for any problem.
Exactly.
It's actually kind of in a problem space, right? I mean, like you said,
Yeah.
you were trying to find out, like he said, it's going to replace Wi-Fi, and you said, you know, like that's not a problem.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it still is replacing Wi-Fi. It's just it needed to find the people who were having the problem with Wi-Fi.
Exactly. The specific use case within that problem set.
Space, yeah.
Problem space.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
So now that was our journey. And he's, like I said, he spent 6 months probing. And this is my thing about customer discovery now that I'm learning is when you go into like a accelerator, here's the customer discovery process. You do interviews, you have standardized questions that let you evaluate what would they pay? Would they pay for this? How much would they pay for this? But the problem with that is, particularly in a deep tech world, that's not how to find the problem. We had to go into defense, and we went into sports stadiums, and we went into all these, and we only got into those discussions because of the network. So because of the network, we went from place, or he went, I just watched him with, like, what the fuck are you doing? He was able to go from use case to use case and get answers to emails and have meetings until he found that specific one. And that was real customer discovery. It's like Moses in the desert. He's just wandering, So there was thought about it. I mean, it was organized. We're here's 2 different people in defense that it might work, but it's really hard to sell there. So that's what I would say about the customer discovery.
Okay.
And an example, I want to mention a book called Pattern Breakers by Mike Maples. And this is the idea, which is a lot of successful companies are take an inflection point and apply it to a problem that you can now solve differently. You look into the future and you say, how can this inflection point that is just happening solve? What can it solve? And you go out, and there's a whole process where you have to build a community behind you as they start to pull you forward into the future. And it's just a cool way to think about.
Like triangulate.
Yeah, triangulate. And his example is the iPhone 4 came out with a GPS and a GPS API for apps to use. That was the only thing that would enable Uber to exist, is that they could do that. And my example is my first Uber ride. A, you can see them coming, which is magical.
Yeah.
You see them coming up the road. B, they dropped us off at a party. We go in the party. We're going to leave. I tell my wife, go get your coat or use the restroom or whatever. I'm going to call Uber. It's going to be 5 minutes or 10 minutes. It's Saturday night. It's probably going to be 20 minutes. So I call the Uber, and she walks off, and I look down, and it says, your car is arriving.
Yeah.
It was
because literally... it knew who was close.
Yeah. And people are parked. I asked the guy about this because it blew my mind. He goes, well, we park all around the cities at different places so that we're extra close to where, like, this is a big group of Uber users. They know to put me close. And it was just wild. It was wild. Wow. And so that was a good inflection point that enabled whole thing.
Wow.
So anyway, I like that model, and that Uber example is a good one. But I would say that this customer discovery, I don't know any way to do it, particularly for, this. If it's a SaaS app, maybe you could send out a survey, but I doubt it.
I got to tell you, and I've probably said this in every one of my podcasts, but I've worked, like I said, with thousands of students, and almost every single one of them says, Mash, is there any other way I can do this? I don't want to go talk. Well, I want to talk to customers. I don't really want to talk to them. Yeah. Can I send a survey? Can I do this? Can AI do it for me? And I'm like, get out of here. Go talk to somebody. It drives me crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't learn the pain. How painful is this problem to them? You can't ask. You can't even ask that really, except by sitting there watching them have the problem. Like we did. We sat there and we watched this thing, and we're like, whoa, that's not working.
Yeah.
So totally. So that's one.
Okay.
It's the pattern breaking, and then triangulation thing is one way to ideate, but this customer discovery is not a random walk. And that's how you get a real ideal customer profile. Because now that we did one of these, obviously, all the rest we're going to call UPS, FedEx.
Now that you know,
Yeah.
okay.
But it also has to be a wireless problem, and speed has to be critical. So
Yes.
I'm not going to go to Ford Motor.
And it helps you
Yeah.
really narrow your
Right.
your target.
Right. Okay. The next one was just what I said earlier, that I was surprised that every step is perilous, every step is required, and it's serial.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. The last thing.
But wait. Let's dig into this.
Okay.
So I need to provide insights for the people that are listening.
Oh, yeah.
What does that mean to be every step is perilous, every step is required, every step is serial? So what do we take away from that? What does that mean to a new founder who's has an idea, wants to get to where you're at?
Yeah. Okay, I'm trying to think of
is it like, first of all, don't die, right?
Yeah, don't die. Yeah.
And then, but then what is it like? Are you selective about the programs or the time you spend in programs at whatever stage? Like, how can they make sure they're going to?
Yeah, because not everybody can get into Skydeck.
No.
Not everybody needs an accelerator, though. Deep tech, something like an enterprise sale, I would argue, yes, particularly if you're a first-time founder. But let's see how to make this helpful. We know all the steps. It was clear, right? It was sort of a early acknowledgement in a pitch competition that helped us get into a free accelerator, which helped us get into a paid accelerator. So I can enumerate all those, but I can't automate it.
What about this? How do you know you're ready to go to the next step? Because you had a guy who was ready to go from the hackathon to the pitch to the blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
But a lot of people they should stay in loop, I think, until they know they're ready to move. How do you know you're ready?
Yeah.
Some people come to me. Go ahead and think about it while I say this. Some startups come to me and they want to go to Skydeck.
Yeah. And I said my guy was too early also, but he got in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I mean, how do you know, for students that are now interested in this and maybe they want a hackathon?
Yeah.
How do you know now it's time for you to get into an incubator, or is that you need to win a hackathon, or you need to how do you know which stage to go to?
Yeah. I'm trying to think of examples. One example, there was a kid who's wanted to do a handyman as a service with students in Santa Cruz. And he had some good, he won a hackathon. I think he may have even gone through the accelerator, but he had some people doing it. I used a kid, he was great. Then he graduated. So I was telling the kid, I'm like, what are you learning about the labor pool? This is a marketplace. What do you need to build a marketplace? You need two-sided participants, and you need enough like in the Uber case. You have to build that. So he kind of withered because he couldn't scale that. And I think the lesson for him was just, I don't think an accelerator would have helped.
No.
So other than mentorship with people who have done it, I don't know how you know you're ready. Do you have any insight?
Maybe it's about learning what kind of company you are.
Yeah.
As quickly as possible.
Yeah. The market and what kind of company you
because
are.
he could have built a fine construction company, like a lifestyle, service company or whatever. But if everyone's telling you, oh man, we could scale this, we could bring this global, we could, get all the students in the world to serve all the people, and you go down this path, which is sort of a fool's errand, we know.
Yeah.
Then.
Well, that's a good.
Maybe there's some.
Well, that point I think is the good one, which is you have to get evidence early. If you don't get evidence, all hope is lost.
Yeah.
And maybe that's one thing about the gates is you need the evidence at that gate or you're wasting your time. And each of those, things has a set of evidence that you can collect or present as you go. This whole Silicon Valley thing is an evidence-based, milestone-based sequence. And you can't, like I say, you can't skip any of that, but that's a good learning, which is each of those does have things you can show to in your path.
Yeah. Which might be actually our responsibility as sort of ecosystem innovators to give them the milestone metrics.
Yeah.
To kind of just sort of not to say, hey, you can't go past this gate unless you hit these things, but to just sort of help them understand that like what you're actually trying to do is you're trying to de-risk your company throughout all these stages.
Yeah.
And by de-risking, you're going to be hitting these milestones, and some of them are like, you said, traction or customers or whatever. And there are cases where you win a hackathon and you go immediately to Skydeck and you sell 50 million ARR, in the next 3 months. Like that stuff happens fine. Those outliers, everyone loves them.
Yeah.
But for most of us, there are milestones we need to meet, and the willingness to like do it is going to actually transform, I think, who we are through the process.
Well, that, and also it's hard because people pivot. Okay, I acknowledge this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
But I got this other idea. I'm going to make the Slack. I was doing a gaming product, but it was flailing. We did make this communication tool while we were doing it. Let's see if there's interest in this little Slack project.
Yeah.
So, even when something fails at a gate, it's not necessarily throw your towel in and go home, but you have to be eyes open. This isn't working.
Yeah.
The evidence isn't there.
I love it. We're definitely going to have to sit down and talk more. Did you have any more tips you wanted to give to new founders to say, look, this is part of the journey?
Yeah. But I got to the ones I wanted to because those were the counterintuitive ones.
Okay.
The rest of the stuff is, it's kind of Lightlink specific, but it was all about this journey. And that's all. That's all.
Okay. I have to ask this question because it's just the biggest topic in the world right now. How is AI helping Lightlinks either operationally, which was fine, it doesn't have to be part of the solution, which I think a lot of people think they need to create AI solutions.
Yeah.
But AI is also transforming operations, customer, development, like it's transforming all kinds of things. Are you using it at all? Does it have a place in your startup at all? Is it necessary at this phase of what you guys are doing?
Well, first to say that it is our the AI in the world is our market that we're targeting. So, there's that. But as an internal tool at how we're scaling the business, the way we use it so far is it's awesome for research, really fast, things, experimentation of how could this be used in this use case? And it has massive amounts of perspective. You could do that in underwater, in space. Couldn't this work? So it's great for pressure testing ideas. Then, of course, it's going to be critical for IP generation. Make a patent out of this idea. It's generate a draft patent. So we're saving massive. Generate an NDA for me.
Mm-hmm.
Generate a mutual NDA. Generate anything like that. So it's massive there. Help us build a financial model for this. And I want to tweak it in this way. Here's the input. It's getting a little better at actually generating files and presentations, although that's still pretty bad. But it'll generate an outline of a presentation, and then I can go update it. You can generate graphics for your website, whatever. Generate your website or whatever. So there's a lot of that stuff.
That's awesome. That's cool to know that, even if you're not actually building an AI product,
right?
You should still be using AI to help operationalize, your company and operations and stuff.
Example is, do we need to hire a firmware developer, or can we ask AI to build these firmware elements? And I'm a programmer, so I did a little bit with IoT, but that might be an area where if you don't have an expertise, you can augment.
Yeah, so interesting. Well, we have a lot of great students coming out of the universities who would help if you need a human in the loop